Today we are going to see a new concept in performance testing, rather a very, very important concept in performance testing called the workload modeling. Now, workload modeling as such means that in order for me to work with performance testing, so we know the types of performance testing are load testing, stress testing, all those things that we saw last class, right? All these tests that you need to do, you need to create scenarios. You need to create scenarios. What is scenario? A scenario is how an application or how a particular activity you are going to test, or a particular functionality you are going to test. How the functionality is going to be tested. Functionality is going to be tested. This is what is a scenario about. Now, scenario will contain what functionality that we are going to test and how are we going to test. Both it's going to contain. Now, in order to answer what functionality we are going to test, what functionality and how this functionality is going to be tested. How this functionality is going to be tested. These two questions are the key in your performance testing. Very, very important, these two questions, because without these two questions, there is no testing at all in performance testing. So these are the two most key questions in order for you to understand what is the next step we need to do in order to do a performance testing for an application. No matter any application, we are not bothered. We are not bothered about what type of application it is, but it has to go through these two questions. So now, in order to go through these two questions, it's not just easy going and asking a person, hey, what is the functionality you want to test? How do you want me to test? No, it's not that easy. These questions are not that easy. In order to answer or ask these questions and get the answer to these questions, there are a series of methods that you need to follow. We are going to see that. So it's not like manual testing where you just take the FRD documents, see the screenshots, write the test case, go through the navigation. If it doesn't do that, say failed, put the defect on it, and then you're done with it. Raise your hand and say, I'm done with my job. That's not what performance testing is. Not take the manual tester would have slogged and written the test case. Just take the test case, write some code in it, and then kick off the test. It will automatically do that, and then say that everything looks good. Raise your hand and say everything looks good. No, it's not like that. Performance testing requires a lot of effort in order for you to start even a test. The background, in order for you to just say, I have started my load test, the amount of background work that you have to do is enormous. It's huge. Similarly, after this, till you prepare your report, is again huge. So it's a pretty tough concept, right? But if you understand that, life is very, very simple here. Do not mug, do not memorize, understand the concept. Life is very simple here. Much, much easier than QTP and manual testing, or I can say automation testing and manual testing. That's here. Understood? So we are going to see today how we are going to ask these questions. We're going to see how we're going to ask these questions, these two important questions of what functionality you want me to test and how this functionality has to be tested. These two key questions. So in order to understand that, first I'm going to clean it up. In order to understand these two key important questions, right? What I'm going to do is, I'm going to divide my approach of getting those two questions into two ways. One, I'm going to say that give me the application. I'm going to look at the application in order to get the question of one, what functionality, and two, how this functionality has to be tested, I'm going to take that application and look at that application in two different aspects. One, I'm going to consider this as a business workload, or I'm going to consider this as a infrastructure workload. What am I writing here? Infrastructure workload. So these are the two types of workload modeling that I'm going to divide that application into, or consider that application. So I have taken an app A and I'm going to consider any of these two aspects of workload, business workload or my infrastructure workload. Now, what is the difference between these two? What is the difference between a business workload and an infrastructure workload? Business workload means that set of users or business scenario performed to achieve business objective or goal. Now, what do you mean by business workload? A set of users or business scenario performed to achieve the business objective or goal. What does this mean? This seems to be like Chinese for us, right? I'm not able to understand. Now, let me put it in a local layman language. In order for me to say, let's take an application, a banking application. Now, in order for me to perform a transfer, right? This is an important functionality, correct? This is an important functionality, right? Yes. Now, in order for me to perform this activity, or what is the goal of this activity? This functionality. What is the goal of this functionality? Can you tell me what is the goal of this functionality?
To transfer money from one account to other.
Transfer money from, say, A account to
B account.
Correct? That's the goal of this. That is what this focuses on. Every functionality, what is the goal of that particular functionality? So that is what is business workload is. So example, let's take an email application.
To send an email would be a goal.
Receiving an email into your inbox would be a goal. That will be the inbox test that we do. Right? Deleting an email from this thing is a goal for the trash.
Yes.
So every business scenario has a specific goal and we focus on that goal. So every functionality is going to be a scenario for us. And that scenario, what is going to do? We are going to understand what is the goal of that scenario or the business objective. Both are the same, right? What is the business objective of this? What is the goal of this? It's the same. The objective of this particular functionality is to transfer from A to B. The goal is also from A to B. Correct?
Yes.
So that is where, when we focus on this, is where we say business workload. So we focus on the goal of each and every functionality. That is what you call business workload. You are able to understand? Any questions? Yeah.
Rajesh, so this one we will be getting from the FRD, is it?
No.
Where will we find
I have not told you how to get this.
Oh, okay.
I'm only talking about
Okay.
what functionalities,
Okay. Yeah, I got that.
right? How I'm talking about generic.
Mm-hmm.
Now, when you are going down into a specific application,
Mm-hmm.
we will see how to get these functionalities. If you are going through this method, how to get the functionalities. If you are going through this method, how to get
Okay.
this.
Okay.
So we are only talking about the concept now. We have not
Right.
gone into the application. This I
Okay.
just gave you an example.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Okay.
Any other questions, guys? Right. So now what we did, we know what you mean by a business objective or a business workload. While the infrastructure workload, what do you mean by infrastructure? Infrastructure workload means that how much load my system can take. How much load my system can take. So how do you put this in a sentence? We would say that the amount of resources. So let me clean this up. So I will say amount of resources used by the business scenario, amount of resources used by the business scenario to achieve desired goal. So now both are almost the same, right? Here we are focusing on how my transfer will happen and what is the goal of this particular module. Once I transfer from A to B, my goal is achieved. But here I'm concentrating on the same transfer, but how much resources? What do you mean by resources? How much of CPU is required? How much of memory is required? How much of space is required? Disk space is required. What is my infrastructure? How many servers are required in order to handle that load? So my focus would be here. My focus would be on the application. Here my focus would be on the server. So these are the two ways we are going to segregate our workload model. Now here again, I have not told how to get your business goals. No, we have not spoken about that. We have only spoken about the concept right above. Before you even think about what are the business goals that you wanted to, or the business scenarios that you're going to, or the functionalities that you're going to test, before even you think about that, you have to follow a direction on what you are going to focus on. So I'm going to focus either on the business workload or am I going to focus on the infrastructure workload. So that drives your path going forward for your entire performance testing life cycle. Guys, you are able to understand this? Yep.
Okay, so you said application is what business workload is, and the server is what the infrastructure workload. I didn't follow that.
Sorry. Can you repeat your question again?
You said something as application and server. Right? Application is the business workload, and server is your infrastructure. So I didn't understand that.
See, in the business workload, what we are doing, we are focusing on the functionality goal. Correct?
Yes.
But in the infrastructure workload, I am taking this functionality and seeing how much of infrastructure is required in order for me to work on this particular functionality.
Okay.
So either are you going to see the infrastructure or you're going to see the application.
Okay.
So that's the key part in which you want to focus on.
Okay.
So when you talk about workload modeling, you will say that workload modeling, when you start workload modeling, I would focus on whether I want to go into a business workload or into an infrastructure workload.
Okay.
So if you are focusing on business workload, you're not worried about how my infrastructure is.
Okay.
If you are focusing on infrastructure workload, then your key aspect is to monitor the CPU memory and see whether that particular the load that you are passing, your infrastructure can handle that.
Okay.
Okay, but
Yes.
even though it starts as a separate concept, at one point it will merge into a single concept.
Okay.
This is just to understand what direction you want to take.
Okay.
You're getting me?
Okay.
You're getting me?
Yes, but when we'll work, I mean, obviously we don't have. I mean, there won't be any such thing such as like option, like you want to go for a
You
business
have
work.
to, that is where you stand, right? When you're taking a new application, you have to talk to the people to understand whether they want to focus on the business scenario or on the infrastructure scenario.
So yeah, again, whatever our client needs, that's what we have to do, right?
That's what. This is focused on the client. So the client will say, no, I have an SLA for my particular transfer module. I want you to focus whether my system can handle that.
So basically, we are just following what our client needs, like what.
Correct.
Okay.
Correct.
It's not.
Now this
It's
is
not
at this
announced.
point, not at this point. Later I'll tell you where you make your decisions.
Okay.
Okay. At a certain point, say at the bottommost point where you run the test, you see that this is much slower. The
Okay.
transfer module is slowing down. Under load, it's very slow. That time you will also see how the CPU memory and disk space are all utilized.
Okay.
So that's what I said. At a certain point, they all merge. But it's only
Okay.
that the direction in which you want to go initially is what we are focusing here.
Okay. Okay.
You getting me?
Yes, understood.
Fine. So any other questions, guys? Okay. Now, let me clean this up. So now we know that the two key aspects are business workload and infrastructure workload. Now, what are the activities? Let's see. Activities involved in workload modeling. Activities involved in workload modeling. Now, the key activities, there are a couple of steps that we have. Let me write down each and every step and then we will focus on all the steps here. First one is test objective identification. Test objective identification. Second one is application understanding. Third one is key scenario identification. Fourth one is navigation path. Fifth one is test data. Sixth one is relative load. Distribution. Seventh one is target load identification. Eighth one is, the final one is miscellaneous options. Now these are the key activities involved in workload modeling. Okay, let me write this in the straight line. Miscellaneous activities. So these are the key activities involved in your workload modeling. So the entire workload modeling is distributed between this. Once you have the answers to this, right? This you can ignore. The eighth one is not a great option. Just you can ignore this option. But the 1 to 7, if you get the answer to this, your workload is ready. So in order to get this answer to the workload, you have to understand so many things now, right? Let's go one by one in order to see what this whole concept is and how to get information for each and every activity, right? So now what I'm going to do, I'm going to clean this up and I'm going to write the first activity. First activity is test objective identification. Test objective identification. This is the first one. Now, in the first one, where you are talking about test objective identification, what is test objective identification? Now, here we are going to identify the objective of the test. That's the key aspect here. Now, what are the objective of the test? Right? The key objectives of the test are: 1, response time; 2, Now, the key objective of the test are response time. Second one is throughput. Third one is resource utilization. And the final one is maximum user load. Now, what do you mean by all these things? Response time. Response time is the time taken, or the difference in the time. Difference in the time between request and response. What does this mean? From my computer, I send a request to the server, right? To the server, and the server will respond back to that particular request. The time, the clock starts the moment it leaves my computer, and the clock stops when it gets the response back. The difference in the start and the end time is called the response time. Now, for any performance testing, this is the most key aspect there, because why do we do performance testing? We want to find out whether the application can handle the load, right? If so many users are in, how do you know that the application can handle the load? When your request comes within a specific time. If you send a request and then wait for 2 minutes for the response to come back, then you lose your customer. That's what we spoke in the introduction, right? So you want everything fast now. The world is so fast that you don't have time to wait. So everything revolves under this response time. Everything revolves under the response time. How fast your application can send the response back to you, where you can go to the next activity. That's the key aspect here. The next is throughput. Throughput is the amount of data sent and received. What do you mean by amount of data sent and received? Now, when you send a request, right, we use the HTTP protocol. So what is the HTTP protocol? It uses the it sends the request in a text file. Sends the request in a, so there will be some KB associated to it, right? Or on the text file, because it sends some information, some KB associated. This amount of data, that is the amount of data that is being sent from the computer, and the response that comes back from the server also comes in a text form. So this KB of data that is being sent and received is called the throughput. The difference between the time is the response time. The data that is being sent and received is what we call the throughput, amount of data that is sent and received. Guys, you are able to understand this? Any questions? Any questions? Fine. The next one is resource utilization. So now when I send a request from here, from my computer to the server, what happens here? There is an application server. We spoke about this application server that gets the request and then processes the information. Processes the information. How does it process? It requires CPU and memory. It requires CPU and memory in order to process this information, do the calculation, and give you the response back. So how much of utilization it happens? So resource utilization means, how do you define that? Resource utilization is the amount of resource, amount of CPU memory required to process. Amount of CPU and memory that is required to process. Right. The next one is maximum user load. Maximum user load. What do you mean by maximum user load? Maximum user load is that this also is a very key aspect, because how many users are you going to test? You have to say, this also is a very key aspect. How many users are you going to test? Because if you don't know how many users are going to test, say your application is designed and it's in production where it's only that 100 people are using. Say let's take our website itself, Capture. Now Capture, we have hardly what? In a day, I see that around 30 to 40 people use this application in a day. Not more than that. Now I take this application and start testing for 10,000 users. What will happen? Is it designed for 10,000 people accessing the system in 1 hour? No, it is not designed for that. Right? It is designed only for around 30 to 40 people to access the system. If I have say 500 people also, it's okay. But not 1,000 people, 10,000 people. My system is not designed for that. While a banking application like BOFA or Citibank, these applications are designed for more than this, because these are all global applications. Right? Global application where there are multiple people accessing the system at different functionalities. So these applications are designed for larger volume. This application is designed for a lower volume. So you should know what application are you going to use. What is the use of that application? Is it a high volume application or a low volume application? Is that the user going to use this application on a day-to-day basis? Like say example Google. Now Google, the moment you get into the computer, the first thing you do is www.google.com. It's become so common that you want to check internet is working, you type google.com. So think the amount of requests that comes. There is a study that went on Google that the amount of energy that it burns right? When you type www.google, a request goes from the server processes it and sends the response. So the amount of energy that it burns in one day, you can literally run a whole state out of that. That much amount of energy that it consumes on a day-to-day basis. So that is the amount of people are accessing this. Now, am I going to consider this website going to be equal to this and design that? No, not necessary. I'm not going to think about people coming in and immediately going into my website. No, that's not going to happen. That's going to be only a few users. So am I going to concentrate on this? No, I'm not going to concentrate on larger volume, right? Mine is all data related. This is not data related. This is search related, right? Here, when you type a thing, I want to get it fast. Here, I want the information. I want to see whether what information I want is available here. So this application is different from this application. This application is different from this application. So every application is different. So you cannot say that I tested Capture with 30 to 40 users, so I'm going to test the same with Google. I'm going to test the same with Bofa or City. No, you cannot say that. So understanding your application and deciding on this is also a key aspect. Now, mind you guys, I'm just talking about the concept. Now, when in today only, we will see how to arrive at this. All these information, I will provide this information, how to arrive at these information. Now, I'm just giving you an overview of the concept. Guys, you are able to understand any questions? Any questions? Yeah.
So who will be deciding on all this? For this website we need only this much of load, and for Google we need.
It's a collaborative effort. When we are by end of today's class, you will have a better understanding of who's going to decide and how this decision is going to take place.
Okay.
Okay. Just wait for some more time. You will get all the answer to the questions.
Okay.
Okay. Any other questions? Fine. So the second one that we are going to see, first we saw well, the first one was test objective identification. Next one is application understanding. Application understanding. Now, application understanding. This is again a key aspect in your workload modeling. You should understand what application are you testing, right? That is, what are the key things that you need to understand. One, how many types of users are using the application? Two, what are the business scenarios? What are the business scenarios, right? For every user. Three, what is the AUT peak user load? 4, expected to grow. 5, how much time specific user achieve peak load. And the last one is continue. Now, these are the key aspects in understanding the application. How many types of users are using the application? So this depends upon the application again. Now, you have, say, example, take Citibank. Now, Citibank, right, has multiple applications. They have multiple hierarchies for those applications. If you are, say, a customer, so you can, when you log in, you can log in and see only your account information. If you are a manager, then you can see multiple customer information associated to your branch. So for this manager, there are a couple of branches associated. He can see those branches account information. If you are a group manager, then he can see, or a state manager, he can see account of his state. If you are a call center representative, BPO representative, you can see the entire list of applications. So depending upon what the hierarchy is, he or she will be able to drill down and see what or get the information from the application. Now you should know how many of users are like this in your application, because when the application is in production, it's not that always the call center people access the system, or it's not always the customer client will be accessing the system, or it's not always the manager. It will be a distribution across all these people. So that you should know what is the different type, how many types of users are in your using the application. So you should know that. Say even in an eBay application or any application, you have two types. One, you can do a guest checkout, or you can create your account, right? So these are only two types. Similarly, there are multiple types in different applications. So you should know what are the different types of users accessing your system. That's very, very important in order to do your workload modeling. The next is, what are the business scenarios for every user? Say for client, if you are a customer, what is the scenario that you access? If you are a manager, what are the scenarios that you access? That is, what are the functionalities you access? Say if it's a customer, right? When you do a transfer, you say, I want to transfer from A account to B account. All you see is transfer completed. But if you're logging in as a manager, you will see what status it is in, where it is going to, which account it's going to, all that information. If you are a group manager, you will see more than this. If you are a call center executive, you can see other information also. So like that, every user, the way they access the system varies. The information that they get and the way they access the system varies. Say even that example, even the client only, if you log into Bank of America website in your laptop to the same website in your mobile phone, you use the Bank of America app, you see that there are some features that are displayed, some features that are not displayed. So see that variation even for the same customer is there. So similarly, when you are logging in as a manager, as a call center executive, there are different views that you get. So you should have the understanding of those business scenarios for every user. What is the peak load, user load? AUT means application under test. What is the peak user load? In order to get this, what is the load expected, and how much specific how many specific users achieve this load? how long the peak load should sustain. These questions, that is question number 3, 4, 5, and 6, it's a separate concept. I'm going to explain this concept. How to achieve, how to get your peak load, how the users is expected to grow, all this information. In order to answer this question, we have to look into a different concept now. Okay, so let me clean this up and we will focus on that concept. Okay, guys, till now, are you able to understand what I'm saying? Any questions? Yeah.
What is AUT? You said application under
Application under test.
Oh, okay. All right.
Any other questions, guys? Fine. Now what we'll do is we'll see how to answer 3, 4, 5, and 6. That is, what is AUT's peak user load, how the user load is expected to grow, how much specific time the specific user will achieve his peak load, and how long the peak load is going to sustain. Let me clean this up. Now, when you go into your project, right? So the first thing what you'll do, the first thing that you will do when you start your performance testing is workload modeling. Workload modeling. Now, workload modeling, we saw it is segregated into 2 types: business workload, and infrastructure workload. Right. Now, these 2 are different path. These 2 takes different path. But even though it takes a different path, these 2 paths are different, the goals are common. Now, in order to do a business workload, we should know what are the scenarios, right? Or the functionality, business scenarios. In order to do your infrastructure workload where we are focusing on CPU, memory, we still need to know the business scenarios. Other than that, how are you going to run your test in order to monitor this? So business scenario is a very key aspect in your workload modeling. Now, how do you get this business scenario? That's what we are going to see. Now, in order to get the business scenario, let me clean this up. Right? So now what happened, even though the workload modeling is of 2 types, this comes and joins at your business scenario. Business scenario. Now, how do you get the business scenario? Again, business scenario is divided into 2 aspects. 1, new application and existing application. Now, guys, you know the difference between a new app and an existing app? Anyone who does not know? Fine. Now, new app is the app that is still not in production. That is, no customer has even seen this app. It's new to the industry. It's coming up. It's under development. While existing app is, your application is already in production. So people are using it. So now, when you are getting into performance testing, PT, the short form of performance testing is PT, performance testing. When you get into performance testing, you go through workload modeling in order to start your performance testing. So in your performance testing, you will start with workload modeling. In workload modeling, you will see what are the 2 types of workload modeling. We have business workload model and infrastructure workload model. So find out what type of workload modeling you want us to do. So now they say, okay, business workload or do infrastructure workload, whatever workload you want. Now, deciding on this, in order to work with these 2 workloads, we have to go understand the business scenario. So now to understand the business scenario, you should know whether the application is a new application or an existing application. If it is a new application, let's start with a new application. Now again, this will come and join here. I'll show you. Now if it's a new application, what will happen? You have to sit with the BA or the stakeholder in order to understand what are the key business scenario. So you have to understand the business. So the language that you will use is, you need to understand one, what is the business critical scenarios. So here what it will do, say example, let's take a email application. Now what is the business critical scenario for an email application?
To log into the email and then send email.
Send email. If you want to send email without login, you cannot send email. Right? Send email.
Right. Yeah, send email and receive email. I should be able to receive.
Yes, to receive.
Receive. And then should be able to log out.
No, that's a flow, right?
Oh, okay. Okay.
Anything else?
I should have an inbox.
Yes, you should be able to delete.
Yeah, delete. Okay.
4. Anything else? Attachments.
Can have a draft.
5. Draft. Forwards. Yes. Forward reply.
Mm-hmm.
Reply / forward. Yeah. 7. Okay, fine. Folders. Fine. Thanks. So now you see here we are charting down the key business scenarios which are required for the application. These scenarios, these business critical scenarios will be given to you by your BA. So the BA will say that this is the critical scenario, because how does she know? Because she or he will know what is the bread and butter of that particular application. She or he will know that because they are designing the application, right? They are literally sitting and designing the application. So they will know what is this application designed for, right? So they will tell you that this application is designed for this particular purpose, and the key business scenario for this application is these things. Without this, the application is of no use. Say example, if you are not able to send an email, why are you having an email application when you can't even send an email to it, right? Through it. So those business critical scenarios would be given to you by your this guy, the BA. That's his job of giving you that business critical scenarios, right? Now, what is that? Now he or she will provide that information. Now once you get that information, what the second step you will do? So the questions that you would ask is 1. What is the key business scenario? The first question that you would ask. So he will give you these steps. The second question you would ask is, what is the total users to be tested? So now what will happen? You will ask them, what is the total number of users you want us to test? So when an application is designed, right, whenever you start an application and you start working on the project, you will know why are you designing that product? You will know that. How many users are you expecting? What is your initial launch? how many what is your initial marketing strategy where you want X number of people to start accessing the system? Say example, you are working on an email email application project. They will say, okay, fine, the stakeholder will say that, initially I'm looking at some 500, 600 people to start. And then gradually in 6 months, I'm looking at another 500 people. So in a year, I'm looking at say 1,000 people. Then in next 2 years, I'm looking at 5 to 10,000 people accessing my email. So that is the goal that the stakeholder will set to the marketing team. That is the goal the stakeholder will set to the marketing team. You need to understand that, because initially they are planning to launch the application, say example, for 1,000 users. They are expecting the system would get 1,000 users initially. Then over a period of time, that is say in 6 months, they are looking at 2,000 users in the system. This is going to be the first quarter. Second quarter, 2,000 users. Third quarter, they are expecting 5,000 users. Fourth quarter, they are expecting 10,000 users. So this is the goal that the stakeholder would have set to the marketing team. You will have this information. You need to get this information in order for you to project and see whether your application can really handle this volume that's coming into the system. Got it? So that's where the key aspect comes. That's where your second question would be. Second question is, what is the total number of users to be tested? Then the third question that you will ask. The third question that you will ask is, let me erase this. The third question that you will ask is, what is the percentage distribution? What is the percentage distribution? So now, what do you mean by percentage distribution? So I know that these are the 7 critical business scenarios that I have to test. I know that, say example, initially we are going to start testing with 1,000 users. Now, in this 1,000 users, am I going to put, say, distribution of 1,000 by 7? So how much it comes up to? Somewhere around, what, 70, how much it comes up to, guys? Per user, how much it comes up to? 1,000 divided by 7. Around 140, close to around 140. No, not, around 140. Okay, around 140 users. Am I going to put 140 users here? 140 users going to delete the system. 140 is going to attach the system. 140 is going to put in the draft. No. Not 140 users are not going to create folders. No. The distribution should be that what is in this, what is the key things that you will be working on. Say example, in the email application, what is the key things you will be working on?
Send email.
Send email. Receive.
And then receive.
Delete.
Yeah. Reply.
Reply. Right. You draft for creating a folder. How many times you attach? You attach, say, out of 10 emails, you might attach 1 email. Correct?
Yeah.
So these are things that you should, the BA would be able to tell you that for my send email, focus on this for 50% of the load. Receive email, focus on say 30% of the load. Delete, I want say like 5 people deleting the system, 5% of the total load deleting the system. Attach, I want say 2% of the people attaching, draft 1%. Like that, he will give you the distribution of 100% distribution. So 50, 35, like that, when you add up, it should come 100%. So what you will do when you are using a send email, when you are putting the load for the send email, 50% of the load should go to send email. So 500 users will be focusing on send email functionality. 30% should go to receive mail. So 300 users will focus on this out of the 1,000. So your distribution will be provided to you. So that is what you need to get the information from your BA, because you don't have any background information on this. You don't have where I can go and refer, because it's a new application. You're getting me?
Yeah.
Where do you go refer? You cannot go to Yahoo email and say that, okay, I got the information from Yahoo. I'm going to test your application based on Yahoo. No, Yahoo is already an established company.
Yes.
They will have, say, 50,000 customers now or 1 million customers now. I am just starting. Can I go and test for 1 million now? No, I'm not going to test for 1 million now.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Yes. Yeah.
So that understanding should come from your BA on this. On what is the initial goal that my application is focusing on. Right? Even if my application can't even manage the initial goal, what is the use of it? Say, for example, when I was in London, I worked for a company called National Grid. National Grid is like our PSEG, right? Who provides electricity and gas in UK. So National Grid provides gas for UK customers. Okay. Now, when I worked, they have an application where only 7 to 10 people use that application.
Oh.
Okay. That's all. That's the maximum number of people you have that use is only 7 people. That is internal application. Can I take that app and load 500 users and see how it works?
No.
No. So when we spoke about that, they said 7 users. Like we really wanted to know whether performance testing was really required for that.
Yes. Yes.
There, the focus was not on business workload. The focus was on an infrastructure workload. Because that application that was there was not even running for 2 people, 3 people. So they didn't know why it was not running. That's where we were brought in. So the focus was on the infrastructure workload than the business workload. Now for 7 people, I'm going to say, no, I'm going to run for 500 users and see. So when we spoke to them about what is the goal for next 5 years, they are saying that in 5 years, I'm expecting 3 or 4 people to add on to it. So what if I'm testing for 10 now, in 5 years, it's going to be 14. So me testing 5 years from now is of no use. 14 people, what do I do that testing? Right? So you have to understand that distribution that is coming, the number of users that you're going to test, what is the goal of that application that you're going to test, what is the projected goal of that particular application. So that will enable you to focus on how you want to direct your testing into. So that's what your complete focus is on, this distribution. So you will get this distribution from the BA. All this information will be provided to you when it's a new application. Once you get the distribution, once you know how many users are you going to do, the next question that you will ask is, what is the projected volume? What do you mean by this? That is, next, say if your goal is every quarter, so what is the projected goal for the next quarter? Or if its goal is half yearly, what is the projected goal for the next half yearly? So If he says, no, I'm looking out for, say, 5,000 users for the entire year. That's my customer target that I'm having. In the next year, I'm targeting for 2,000 users. Now, are you going to finish your testing with 1,000 users? No, you're not going to finish your testing with 1,000 users. Imagine there is a change in the marketing strategy and they provide some offer where people start bombarding the system in order to purchase a product. Right? Say example, one more example I can give you. See, BOFA. BOFA came out with a marketing strategy where they wanted to increase the credit card customers. So what they said, if you take a card from me, that is from BOFA, and swipe $3,000 in 3 months, right? In 3 months, it's not a major amount. $1,000 per month is the target that they gave you. You add all your bills, add your car insurance, everything, you'll easily reach it. With your grocery, easily you'll reach $1,000 a month. Now, 3 months you do, I'm going to give you 40,000 points, which is equivalent to $600 you can claim. So that's a wonderful offer, right? That's a wonderful offer. That's what happened. With this offer, their credit card client shot up by 1.5%. The number of customers who took credit card from Bank of America. Now, once you take it, you're stuck for 1 year. He will make out the money in the 1 year. That $600, how does the bank make money? Every transaction, say $10 transaction that you do, a percentage of, say, close to $1 goes for credit card company. Because you are swiping the card, $1 goes to the credit card company. 1.3, I think, $1.30 something goes to the credit card company. That's how the company makes money, right? And what they do, $600, if you are using for the whole year, he would make at least, with the interest, everything, he would make at least close to $2,000 from you, directly and indirectly. So directly would be the interest he is charging you for the money that you are using. Indirectly is for every swipe that you do, the company that is using that credit card machine will pay an amount to the credit card company. So he will make $2,000. He is going to give you only $600 back. So he's still making $1,400. This is a very low amount I'm talking. $1,000 back from you in a year. Imagine 1.5% is shot up. So when this shoot up happens, this is a slow process. That what I'm talking about, this profit is a slow process. But for the BOFA application, Bank of America application, this was a spike, right? Suddenly people started using it. Last month the usage was low, and this month suddenly it went up and came down. In the next month, once the offer is over, it came down. So this is what you will focus on. So when he says that I'm looking at 1,000 users till the end of the year, you will test for 2 times the volume and 3 times the volume, just to see whether your application, if there is a spike, can manage that load, as well as if your current infrastructure can manage that load. So that whole concept of understanding what this spike would bring into my application is what you all are testing here. So this 1,000 users that the client is saying is the maximum amount. Now what will you do? You will test with all the 1,000 users for close to 1 hour in the system. You will not see 1,000 users full time in the system. You will see, say, 800 users, then you will have 100 users dropping down, then you will have 900 users, then sometimes you will see no user in the system only. The in production it will go up and down like this, but when you are running your test, you will not go up and down like this. You will just hit 1,000 users for 1 hour. So 1 hour bombarding with 1,000 users, if your application can respond, then over a period of time also it can respond. So those are assumptions that we take in performance testing. So that's why we bombard the system to see whether the peak load it can handle, then the up and down, that is if you have 800, then 200, then 400, the system can still manage those loads, right? Guys, you are able to understand what I'm discussing about here? You are able to understand? Any questions till now? Any questions? Fine. So now, that's what we did. So these are the 4. Yeah?
So do we do it for 1 hour, like the load testing?
Yes.
Okay.
Load, stress, everything is done for 1 hour. Endurance is the one which we run for a longer duration of time.
Okay.
Okay. You'll have a better understanding when we do the execution and designing of the scenario. You'll have a better understanding at that time.
Okay, Rajesh.
Okay. So now you get all the information here based on these 4 questions, right? So once you get the projected volume, once you understand what is the volume that you want to test, what the percentage user distribution, the total number of users and the key distribution, you are good to go for your testing. So now, let me clean this up. So now, coming back into your workload modeling, you have all this information. You have all this information that is required for you to understand and work on the system. Now, once you get all this information, I'm going from here. I will go down to start working on my test strategy, test plan. Then you have your rest of the features that we spoke about in the introduction class. So now this is how you go with your new application. Let's focus on the existing application. If it's an existing application, you still need all these questions. You still need the same questions. The questions don't change. The questions are still the same. No difference in the questions. How do you get the information? What are the key business scenarios? Now, in order to understand the key business scenarios, what would you do? Since it's already in production, where people are using the application, what would you do? Let me clean this up first so that I have space for me to write. You will talk to the system admin, and ask him to provide you the application log for the whole month, that is 30 days. Now he'll provide you the application log. So what will you do in the application log? Open the application log. Yes, this is for existing application. Open the application log and start seeing once this particular document comes up, right? If you go to my website, understanding application log, once this comes up, you will know how to do this activity. Okay. So now what we are going to do here is I'm going to take this application, okay, and I'm going to see what is the total number of requests per day. That is right from 9 a.m. That's the business hours to 5 p.m. This is the business hours. How many requests, total number of requests? So I will start charting this, right, for the total. So every day, right from the 1st to the 30th, I will chart. This will be my day and this will be my total request. So it will come like this. And one day it will be up, one day it will be down, it will go like this. At a certain point, it will come like this, something like this. Now you know which is the peak load it reached. At one day, it would have gone to the highest. Which day is that? Say, example, it might be the 25th of this month. Might be. I don't know. Just an assumption. Now what you do, take that day. So this is all over. This all is over. Now you know you want it for the 25th day. You take that app log. That's the day in which you had the highest number of usage. Right? Now you take this app log and what you do is find out what are the functionalities. What are the functionalities that has been accessed? So you'll know what are the functionalities on the day from 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. they accessed. The list of functionalities you will get. Say example, these are the list of functionalities that you got on that particular day. Now you know that from 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. you know there are the total number of requests is, say example, 1,000. That is, no matter about don't bother about the functionality. From 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. count each and every request. That is, say example, is 1,000. Now in this 1,000, how many requests was there for send email? How many requests was there for receive? Say in this 1,000, say example, 500 requests was there in the for send email. That is 500 people were sending emails on this particular day. That would be your distribution for this. So you got your total number of users, right? You didn't get the total number of users. We got the business scenario. What are the key business scenarios? We know the distribution. So these two we got from the application log. Guys, you are able to understand this? Guys, you are able to understand this? We got the key business scenario. That is, what are the functionalities that got used? Yeah? What is the question?
So you get to know your percentage distribution depending on the specific peak load on that day of the month, right?
On that day of the month, you know that that's the peak load.
Yes.
So in that peak load, that day of the month, you know that from 9 a.m. to 5 p.m., how many total number of requests? That is everything together. Say example, it's 1,000. For the 1,000, how many people were sending email? You know that from the list, right?
Yes.
That will be your distribution for this. So if I say 500, that means 50% of the people were sending email.
So you identify it from your peak load, right? Basically.
Yes. Yes.
For the entire month.
Yes. First you find out which is the month that took the highest number of load, peak load, and then from that I got the business scenario and the distribution. But I have still not got this total number of users. Okay?
Okay.
You got it?
Yes, understood. Thank you.
Yeah, what's the question?
So all this we'll be finding out by ourselves for the existing app instead of the BA telling us.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay. Now you're not finished. So first you do the basic of here, right? And that's your question?
Yeah. So that will give the number of users as well, right? How many were accessing on that particular day?
No, it won't say you. It will only give you the app log will capture the number of requests.
Okay. Okay.
Okay. It won't capture how many users are there.
Okay.
Okay. So now what we will do is we will decide on the scenario. We decided on the scenario through this. We got the percentage distribution through this. Now what you'll do, you'll create a document and send it to the BA. BA, project manager, stakeholder, all these people will be in the loop. You send it to them and say, this is what I have identified from my workload modeling, from the production log that I analyzed for a month. This is what is the usage and this is what is the distribution. Please confirm. Confirm. Okay, give me 1 second. So now you send this to them. Done. Once you send it, the next step, what you do? The next step is I need to find out what is the peak usage. So for the app log, I spoke to the system admin. Next, for the peak usage, you will talk to the DBA. database administrator, you will ask him for the audit table. You'll ask for the audit table. In the audit table, tell him to give, from the audit table, tell him to give you the unique user distribution for the same month that you did the analysis. Same month. So what he will do, he will give you on day 1, 300, day 2, 500, day 3, 1000, day 4, like that he will give you the distribution. Unique user, total count he will give you. Some BAs are lazy, they will give you the full list. So you have to take that list and put it into, on a day wise, he will give you the full list. Take that and put it into the Excel sheet and create a unique data for that. So you will get the same data. Instead of him writing the query, some crazy people give it off to you, the full list. You need to find out the unique data. Here you will know that on which day large number of users were in the system. It's not necessary that users will be in the system, but they might be inactive users. There will be active users. There are two types of users. You will log in, then you would have left it like that, but some people would be logging and working on it. So you'll know what is the total number of users, the maximum number of users. Take that maximum number of users. That will be your peak load test. That will be your peak load. Guys, you are able to understand this. How did I get my peak load? How did I get my peak load? Any questions on this? Any questions? Any questions?
No, Rajesh.
Yeah.
You usually get it, the peak load information for a month, right?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
We always take it for a month, because if you say, give me for the last week be the application's the lowest usage week. You don't know.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
Right? So we take it for the whole month. The best is to take it for the whole month so that you don't miss anything.
Miss anything. Okay.
Right? Never take November and December.
Oh, because that's slow season, right?
Slow season. If you're working on an application which is selling a product, then you have to December, November.
Yeah.
Well,
Yes.
that is where the company's whole year comes into picture.
Yes.
Right? So that's how you have to work with. Guys, you are able to understand how did I get the distribution, usage, everything here. After you get that, again, the map looks the same, right? Let me clean this out. Now, like how I got the answer to the new application and moved on to the existing one, rather moved on to the test plan. Similarly, after getting this, you move on to the test plan. Test strategy, test plan. So this is how we do the workload modeling, right? This is how we understand the key aspects of what we need when we work on the workload modeling and the performance testing of the application. Guys, you are able to understand now. Now the question that we had, let me clean this up. The questions that we wrote in order to ask one regarding predict peak load. Second one was what was the second one? I forgot. Yeah. Sorry. Expected to grow. Yes. See. Expected to grow. We got the answer to this too. 3. What is the third one? Third one is how much time? Time for peak load. Peak load. 4. How long? So these two questions, right? How much time and how long? These two, again, you have, this is a standard. This is a standard. How long does the peak load last? How long the peak load lasts? We usually, no matter it's a load test or a stress test, whatever we run for 1 hour, 1 hour. There are different concepts in it. We have to learn the concept of ramp up, steady state, ramp down. All these things we learn later, not now. But we understand that we will run the load test for 1 hour. So this is where, this is a standard. We don't change that. So this usually is a standard. How much time it takes for the peak load varies from application to application. See, the best would be 2 user every 15 seconds. So every 15 seconds you are pushing 2 users. So this again varies depending on the number of load. If you are having like 5,000 users you want to push, if you push 2 users every 15 seconds, it will take 1 hour for you to push the users only. Depending upon application to application, it can go up to 5 users. So we will see how this is achieved. This is again achieved using trial and error method, right? You can get that from your application log. See the time between say 8 a.m. to 10 a.m. You will start seeing that the people are getting into the application. From 10 a.m. to 12, you will see that the people are in the application. So this 8 a.m. to 12 a.m. you can see that how many users are getting into the application at what pace. This calculation can be done, or you can assume this. At a certain point, you can assume this. So mostly we don't do this calculation. We usually assume it. We'll work on this, how this assumption works. Guys, did you guys understand this? Any questions? Guys, understand this? Any questions? Fine. The next one that we were seeing was, third one was key scenario identification. Key scenario identification. Now, key scenario identification is again the same. We did that in the previous step itself. We got, if it's a new application or an existing application, how did we get the business critical scenarios? How did we get that? We just did that in the previous itself. So I actually combined everything and put it off into a single thing, right? To understand what are the business critical scenarios, how did we arrive at that? When I drew the diagram for the new application and existing application itself, we discussed about this. Any questions on this? Any questions, guys? Any questions? Fine. The next one what we are seeing here, determine navigation path. Determine navigation path. Now the navigation path again is new application or an existing application will be provided to you once you identify the key scenarios, right? That is, say example, I wanted to send an email. Now this is a key part, key functionality that you're going to test. How to do this will be provided to you. You have the test case from the manual tester, or you'll be given a walkthrough of how to do this particular functionality. Okay. Then the next one, fifth one is identify unique data. Now test data. Yeah.
Okay, so Rajesh, in navigation path, you said all the information will be provided like from the manual testers. right? So what
Yeah.
what are we doing in there?
You're not doing anything in that. Once you identify the key scenarios that you want to test, say
Okay.
example, send email is one of the key scenario.
Okay.
Now you will sit with a manual tester,
Okay.
or you will sit with a BA. BA, usually you won't get the BA. It's going to be very tough for the BA to sit and explain that. They will tell, see, that particular manual tester is the one who did that functionality. You can sit with her. So you will go sit with her. She will show you the path, or he or she will show you the path of how or the flow, how to achieve this particular functionality.
Okay.
You getting me?
Yes. And basically, I wanted to ask is like all these things, like the whole all these things. I mean, what is the time? Like we have to work on. Like, do we have enough time, or we just have to do it like as fast as possible, like
No,
every week or?
this is a 2-day or 3-day activity that you'll do, not more than that.
Oh, okay.
It's just a 2 or 3-day activity. Sometimes might be a week, not more than that. Depending upon, see, this all information is based on a third person, right?
Yes.
You have to interact with the system admin to pull the production log. Now the production log, he will take his own sweet time. He will say raise a service center request in order to get that. So you will go and raise that. Once you raise that, that has to go through a process of approvals. Once that gets approval, then he will work on it and give it to you. That might take 3 days time. Those are things that is not in your hands. Once it comes to you, then you start analyzing. You'll take another 2 days to analyze it.
Okay. So
Meanwhile, you'll talk to the BA, the DBA on to get the audit table.
Okay.
Are you getting me?
Yes. So all this thing, like, so the whole workload modeling is like we just have to follow up with the other team, other people in our team, right?
And then follow up in order to get some information. After that, you have to work on it to get the data out, right?
Yes.
You getting me?
Yes. So all the things, I mean, yeah, as you said, like to get all the information first from others will take some time, and then to analyze everything that we will ourselves will take like 1 or 2 days, and then we'll start working on it, right?
Correct.
Okay. All right.
Okay? Yeah. Fine. So now, identify unique data. That is, we are talking about the data that we are going to use inside your application. There are applications where you cannot use the same data again. If you want to test with 50 users, all the 50 users should be unique, different names. You cannot have the same name. But some applications will take up, say, some applications you can log in with the same name again and again. So identifying that information, the test data, that you will know when you start working with this. That's why the flow comes up. First you identify the scenario, then the navigation part, then the test data. So you will, once you understand the navigation part, in order to work with the navigation part, you have to put the information. Say example for the send mail only. In order for you to send the mail, that particular mail ID should exist. And you can't send the email to a box which is not available. So there is a data restriction there. So you have to create that data. So sometimes you might have to work in creating the data that is required for you to work on the testing. So you will be working on those things here in identifying the unique test data. Right. Then what we are going to do in the unique test data is that now when we are working with the test data, when you are working on the unique test data, you will know that at a point where, say example, log into the application. You will first log in through the application. Then you will click on the send email button, right? Or the link, send email link. You will click on this. Now, what is the time that took for you after you logged in to go and click on this? Approximate, you will know. This is what you call the think time, right? This is the time you're going to, or the wait time. We learned in QTP, we learned the wait time, right? The wait time, we're going to introduce wait time between each and every action. In load runner, we call the think time. We'll learn more about think time when we are working with scripting, not now. Okay, we don't want to talk about this now. So you will put a wait time. Those things are decided when you are working with the test data to understand when the navigation flow, how long when you put a specific data, how long it takes for the system to respond back. All those things you will have a better understanding about the application when you are working with the test data. Then the next one is, sixth one is load distribution. This again, we did that when we did the diagram for the existing app and the old app, how we get the distribution of that particular load. The seventh one is identify target load. Identify target load. Now, how do you identify target load? Now, in order for this also, again, we went through the application log, or we saw that the distribution, right? Now, if it's an existing application, we know that out of the total 1,000 requests that's coming in, we know that 500 requests went into the email application, sending the email. So that count, we know that is the target load. So if for 1,000 requests that you're going to send in 1 hour, 500 requests should be for the target load. So that is your target load. 500 requests should go only to your send email. That's the target workload. So you get that again information from your existing, for the existing application, you get it from the production volume. So we know what is the target load. So in this we did for a month, right? When for a day we found out how much this is coming up. Now in order to identify the target load, exact target load, what we need to do here. Now if you see here, this one, right? From 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. we know that this is the target load. So we have 1,000 requests coming in. This is distributed across 8 hours, correct? Now I know that 500 requests has gone for the send email. This is again distributed across 8 hours. Now for 1 hour, what is the distribution? Can anyone calculate and tell me what is the distribution for 1 hour? 61, closed. So in 1 hour, we have to achieve a minimum of 61 requests. This is the target load. This is how we calculate the target load. In a specific percentage, how do we calculate the target load? Guys, you are able to understand this? How did I calculate the target load? Any questions? Any questions? Fine. So this is how we do the complete workload modeling. No? You do not understand?
No. I just said.
You didn't understand. What? Which part you did not understand?
I understood, Rajesh. When you asked, yeah.
Okay, fine. So this is how we sit and identify the workload. So you have to go through each and every key topics that we spoke today. Every topic that we spoke today, identify that, understand that topic, and decide on what is the key functionality that if you work on it, which will provide you all the information. You have to understand that. So understanding of those key functionalities that are the key topics that we spoke will provide you complete distribution of or complete workload for you. Any questions before we go to the next topic? Any questions? Okay, fine. So that's all about workload modeling. Fine. The next topic that we are going to see is